Andor and Ahsoka are the best live-action Star Wars TV shows yet, and it can be proven beyond a shadow of a doubt with these 10 reasons for each. Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and keep watching for more details. Andor and Ahsoka are two of Star Wars' best live-action TV shows thus far, despite their differences in both approach and tone. Andor's inclusion of well-known characters is justified and adds to the overall story. Ahsoka's debuts of familiar animated characters are stellar and true to the original characters. There are 10 reasons each why Andor and Ahsoka are two of the best Star Wars TV shows to date. Despite both being set in the Star Wars universe, Andor and Ahsoka are very different TV shows. While one follows a relatively obscure character's journey to join the Rebel Alliance, the other follows a character who is extremely well known on her mission to prevent the most dangerous Imperial Grand Admiral from wreaking havoc on the New Republic. However, both of these shows are excellent in their own right and deserve to be recognized as such. Cassian Andor was first introduced into Star Wars canon in Rogue One, a Star Wars story. While not as popular as some others, Andor was nevertheless a fascinating character. Andor follows his journey as he goes from a smuggler to a rebel fighter. Ahsoka, on the other hand, is about arguably one of the most popular characters in Star Wars history, Ahsoka Tano. The show follows Ahsoka and her Padawan Sabine Wren as they try to free Ezra Bridger from his exile in another galaxy, while simultaneously ensuring that Grand Admiral Thrawn remains trapped. Both of these shows are intense and thrilling in different ways, and here's why they're the best Star Wars live-action TV shows yet. Up until Andor, the Empire has always been shown from the perspective of rebel fighters on the front lines. Andor, however, gives an eerily accurate portrayal of the casual cruelty of such a corrupt government. For example, when Andor is sent to prison, the way the prison operates is extremely unnerving. The prison doesn't need guards. The electrified floor and punishments are enough to make it incredibly terrifying and difficult to escape. The fact that the prisoners are kept in check in part by the false promise of freedom shows the Empire's disregard for its people and expresses an insidious manipulation. The use of the prisoners to rapidly produce parts for the Death Star and the arbitrary arrest to artificially inflate the workforce shows an efficiency that hasn't been explored in other Star Wars media. The Empire in Andor is casually cruel, cold, and extremely efficient. While a couple of popular characters such as Mon Mothma and Saw Gerrera are featured in the show, their stories are expanded upon and make sense within the narrative. Their inclusion in the show is completely justified, as it doesn't rely on forced Jedi cameos. Instead, it holds its own by telling a unique story that adds to the Star Wars universe. Andor contributes to the mega plot of the rebellion and the construction, and later destruction, of the Death Star while still telling its own story and fleshing out its characters. It is a relevant and interesting story that feels like it belongs in the Star Wars universe. It contributes to the meta-narrative in a way that feels important without feeling the need to remind the viewer they are watching a Star Wars show at every turn. It contributes to the broader Star Wars canon, but it also could easily work as a standalone sci-fi show. Andor has some of the most beautiful writing in Star Wars history, and it has arguably some of the best monologues in television history. For example, Rebel leader Luthen Rael's monologue in Season 1, Episode 10 is a work of art. With lines such as, "I've made my mind a sunless place, and I yearn to be a savior against injustice without contemplating the cost, and by the time I looked down, there was no longer any ground beneath my feet." Andor positions itself as having not only the most gorgeous and impactful dialogue in Star Wars history, but in television history. Chekhov's gun is a narrative principle that states everything in a story must have a purpose. For example, if a story contains a gun sitting on a table, the principle of Chekhov's gun states the gun must go off at some point in the story. Andor follows the principle of Chekhov's gun, as there isn't any fluff. Each part of the plot is not only believable, but it also fits perfectly within the broader story. Each element of the story has significance, and the narrative flows naturally.